We'll transition as well to keep this rolling, and then we'll open up the questions, but we're going to talk about DOT news now. So last night during the State of the State, I also announced, thanks to a bipartisan infrastructure law and to our congressional delegation, we're ensured we get our fair share of the funds coming from D.C. We're able to accelerate over 100 infrastructure projects valued at over $2.1 billion. This critical investment focuses on key infrastructure priorities, including fixing bridges in need of critical repair, reducing carbon emissions, increasing system resilience, and removing barriers to connecting communities. Said simply, fixing these roads and bridges more quickly means safer roads, reduced travel time to and from work, and less needed car repairs. I'm going to ask Director Alviti to talk about the accelerated plan, but I do want to highlight that the project list today, what the project list today includes. 22 projects with bike path infrastructure improvements, 63 projects that include pedestrian walkway features, 87 projects that will enhance stormwater quality, 86 projects that make roads and walkways safer, and all of these projects create good-paying jobs as we continue our efforts to increase per capita income in the state of Rhode Island. So, Peter, you're going to be busy. Your department's going to be busy. I think you're up to the task, but tell us how you're going to make all that happen. That's a lot of projects.
Thanks, Governor. You know, I've got to begin by thanking a few people for providing this extraordinary amount of generational investment in our infrastructure, our transportation infrastructure in the state. The President and the Secretary of U.S. DOT implemented a bipartisan Infrastructure and Jobs Act that, with the support of our congressional delegation, very key support to move this through the Senate and Congress, Senator Reed's, Senator Whitehouse, certainly Congressman Langevin and Cicilline, all put their shoulder into it in Congress to make sure this thing moved through so these funds would get here to Rhode Island. But just as importantly, the governor is putting his shoulder into providing the state share of that funding that makes it possible for us to unlock and use this several $100 million worth of additional investment. And the Senate President, Ruggiero, and the House Speaker, Shekarchi, are also very supportive of all of this. Without that kind of support, this money would not be available, and the benefits that I'm about to speak about would not be happening here in Rhode Island. As the governor said, this year we're infusing an additional, over the next 5 years, an additional, over and above our normal and customary transportation funding here in the state, an additional $576 million over 5 years. That is going to take, out of the 10-year plan that we have of about 600 projects, and move over 100 of them up in time, an average of 4 years, some as much as 10 years. And they're valued at about $2.1 billion. So we're leveraging the $576 million to positively affect and accelerate over $2 billion worth of projects that are on our 10-year plan. Simply put, this is going to make Rhode Island's roads and bridges and other transportation infrastructure safer and in a better state of repair more quickly than we would have been able to realize otherwise. And we're going to do that with a top-of-the-mind awareness on how our construction projects benefit not only the state but also the planet. By designing these projects and funding them in a way that will contribute to achieving our climate change initiatives here in the state and goals. Because in the past several years, we have concentrated our roadworks initiative mainly on the state of good repair of our bridges, our deficient bridges, where we started out with over 25% structurally deficient bridges. We're moving quickly to eliminate those hazards from our lives. This will be bringing Rhode Island's roads and bridges into a state of good repair. And in doing that, we'll also do it in a way that we enhance our alternative and active transportation modes. We bring to a state of good repair our environmental systems, our stormwater systems in the state. We include ADA and pedestrian improvements to the infrastructure that we'll be building with this money that will make a better quality of life and a better environment for the residents of the state. Wherever possible, we cut down on the footprint of our bridges, as we have on projects like the Henderson Bridge. We'll be carrying that thought farther and doubling down on it with our new projects. We'll be reducing the maintenance costs and reduce the carbon footprint that results from these transportation assets in the future. We've done things in the past several years that help us in those initiatives, like the ferry service to Newport that we started that actually reduces considerably the amount of congestion and traffic and vehicles in the city of Newport, particularly in the summertime. We're now will be using these new funds to double down and renew and strengthen our commitment to improve not only the condition of our roads and bridges, but also their resiliency. We're making a commitment in these projects to enhance, as I said, alternate modes of transportation and carbon reduction initiatives. We are going to be more mindful to the effect of the environment and do our best to reduce emissions wherever and whenever we can with this funding. RIDOT certainly supports the governor's commitment that you heard him make earlier to mitigating climate change, and the United States Department of Transportation have included in this legislation, the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, an emphasis on climate change and equity. And with that, our planners and our staff went to work and created this accelerated plan that will enhance many of our projects using this initiative principles. We'll create new infrastructure that's less vulnerable and more resilient to changing climate. And for several years now, while we've been planning our road improvements with rising sea levels, and we'll certainly double down and continue that commitment with this funding. We've embraced and will continue to advance new technologies like electric vehicle charging stations that $23 million of this funding is for, and broadband development in our transportation right-of-ways so that we could provide better broadband service to communities. The projects also include provisions for reconnecting communities and for addressing equity issues. Both will be a vital part going forward of our planning strategies. All of this support will validate our commitment to use these federal funds in the most efficient and effective way in conformance with these federal policies, and certainly in association with the bipartisan Infrastructure and Jobs Act. Our mandate from the governor is to restore Rhode Island's infrastructure to a state of good repair and create jobs while we create a pathway to Rhode Island's greener future. Thanks for your support, Governor. Thank you to the support of the General Assembly as we move forward. And we're looking forward these are projects that will begin putting in the ground and putting the shovel in the ground on this year. We were particularly ready for it because of the structure of our 10-year plan and the planning process and the management structure that we now have at DOT that will get this money to work for you quickly and efficiently. So thanks.
Peter, that's great. And you'll be busy, and we like that. And we also know that that it's important to all our families, this effort. But it's also, as I mentioned last night, it's time that we really improve our small business-friendly climate. And we know that that's part of the metrics, right? I can't imagine why we're not moving up on the infrastructure piece of some of those ratings, but I think that the Secretary Pryor has got his office working on that and making sure that everybody in the world that talks about Rhode Island in that way and infrastructure understands that there's been tremendous amount of work that has happened over the last few years, and we're going to double down and be able to accelerate that, like you said. So that's going to be important for us.